Catapult Falls. SeaWorld San Antonio's new for 2024 attraction is Catapult Falls, the world's first launched log flume. The park markets this as a roller coaster, but is it really a coaster? And is this the ride that the park deserves? Find out in this review. SeaWorld San Antonio originally had a log flume in Texas Splashdown. When looking at a collection of water rides, a log flume gives SeaWorld San Antonio all three major types of water rides: a log flume, a river rapids ride, and a shoot the chutes attraction in Journey to Atlantis. With the large family crowds that this park sees, the removal of the log flume in the past is a mystery, as even an unexciting one would easily be one of the most popular attractions at this Texas theme park. Rio Loco, for instance, can get waits over 2 hours simply because of the demand from families to ride something less extreme. Similarly, Wave Breaker the Rescue Coaster, as the park's main family coaster, routinely has the longest wait in the park, though Grover's Boxcar Derby was close to 40 minutes or more during my most recent trip over spring break. Let's just say, this park certainly needs a family-friendly log flume. As for log flumes, El Asadero was the first modern log flume ever built, located at Six Flags Over Texas. Over the years, most amusement parks have sought to add a log flume, as they're a nice water ride that families can enjoy. Some have elaborate theming, others, like Bugs Whitewater Rapids at Six Flags Fiesta Texas, have some theming, while others are simply a trip through the woods. Catapult Falls is built by Intamin, who normally produces large-scale roller coasters. So this design is built more to be like a coaster, and the ride type is called a flume coaster by Intamin. However, due to a lack of a standalone coaster element, such as a drop between two dry turns, the roller coaster database does not classify this as a coaster. I tend to be more restrictive on what I personally classify as a roller coaster, and tend to stick with and agree with the decisions of the roller coaster database. Other versions of log flumes by Intamin have reverse sections that have been a more common gimmick on log flumes, as the mock version at Siam Amazing Park in Thailand has a reverse section as well. However, Catapult Falls was made to showcase other options Intamin has, most notably the launched hill. Although other vertical lift flumes have been made, this is also the first in North America. I don't know whether or not the blending of a coaster-like elements in a log flume will work long term, but it seems like an interesting marketing idea for sure. The theming for this ride is that you're taking a scenic hike. This plays well with different signage in the queue line, as well as various signs and artifacts along the course. Some, such as the Bear Crossing sign, paying homage to the San Antonio location of the park. With a lack of trees around the ride itself, this does seem like a strange place to be taking a scenic hike, as many older log flumes nicely blend themselves through trees. But the whimsical and consistent theming adds a nice touch while you meander through the course, most of which is very low to the ground. Dispatches on this ride seem slow, especially at the start of the day when I went to this attraction for rope drop. Many boats were being held in the station for various checks, and most boats were not going out full, with operators not loading the front rows in most, though not all, boats. With only 8 people max per boat, and the slow loading that a high number of families riding will cause, I am concerned that this ride will build up a sizable wait quite easily. With the length of the queue line, hopefully none of the base camp switchbacks will have to be opened. When riding later in the day, people skipped using these to take advantage of the queue to watch the actual ride. With the queue backed up to the first drop, this took about 30 to 40 minutes to get through, which was reasonable given that almost every ride had an hour or more wait at that time of the day. Overall, despite large crowds over spring break, this attraction did not seem to be drawing large crowds. I easily rewrote after rope dropping it, and that was with the ride having delayed opening and opening at 11 a.m. instead of the posted 10:30 a.m. with the park, which is fine since I just went across to Wave Breaker and got my 2 laps on that before it built up a sizable wait. I don't know if because I rode this at the start of the day and since the weather was still on a bit colder side, that's why there weren't a lot of crowds, but I would like to believe you can easily get 4 to 8 re-rides in at the start of the day if you're seeking just to ride this attraction on a visit to SeaWorld San Antonio on a very busy day. SeaWorld San Antonio also has a lot of slower days on the calendar, so you can always visit on one of those off days if you're worried about crowds as well. The queue line itself has mild theming, but more importantly is confusing. The exit is the path closest to the water, and without people standing in line, it is very easy to get confused and mistake the exit as the main queue, since the entrance sign is tiny and tucked back a ways. These paths also intercept along the courses, making it not entirely clear which way you need to go. Again, once a long queue builds up, it is clear, but until that happens, I can see many families trying to load through the exit platform as I did on my first attempt to ride this ride, and I'm kind of a professional at doing this. The ride starts off with a slow, meandering section low to the ground. The first thing guests will notice is that if the boats are unbalanced at all, you will lean to one side during these sections. For the first-time riders, especially families, this imbalance seems to be unsettling, as it makes one think that the ride might not be able to handle the people in the boat. During my visit, many boats were dispatched below full capacity, especially when it was slower. So it seems relatively likely that you will get to experience this tilting sensation. You do get to take in theming at a slow pace in the first section, including the Catapult Falls sign, while then dunking under the launched hill. You then have the Bear Crossing sign, a tent, and a Catapult Falls campground sign, more tents, and a Geyser Gulch sign. There are 3 different geysers, Alamo, Fiesta, and Riverwalk, along this part of the course that can really get you wet, if they hit. On the cooler morning that I recorded my POVs, they were all turned off. When I rerode later in the day when it was hot, the Riverwalk geyser was turned on, and it got us absolutely soaked when it went off on a ride. I did not see the other 2 geysers operating on my visit to SeaWorld San Antonio. Then, you enter the launch. You come out of the water a little bit to get up on the launching pad, so this is a small jerk to it while you go up. After a few more seconds of waiting, the launch will kick in. It is not too punchy or wild like, say, the launch on Wrath of Zeus, but it is just a quick burst of speed that accelerates you. As far as forces, it really is just a gimmick that admittedly looks pretty cool. However, when you start accelerating, this will likely cause a splash on the side of the boat, giving you a very good chance of getting wet. Overall, the layout will get you wet, but mainly the side that is facing out of the boat, and your other half should stay relatively dry. Although you also get another splash on the other side of the hill, I found the acceleration splash to be the wetter of the 2 on this part of the ride, though either or both can definitely soak you. The bunny hill doesn't offer much as you take it too slowly and with a controlled enough speed that it doesn't offer much or any airtime. For those more sensitive to drops, the drop from this hill, despite its small size, could do a bit for you. But realistically, it is just meant to be a nice looking gimmick and offer the thrills of getting wet. After the acceleration hill, you have one final turn that doesn't have a large amount of theming before bumping into the vertical lift hill. With not much theming around it, it is a bummer that you don't have much to look at as you rise up. Having been on lifts like this on other coasters like Cobra's Curse, I did not find it nearly as terrifying as when I first encountered one of these. The sight lines from the cars also makes it not super easy to look straight down as you're pulled up the lift, which is nice for even my fear of heights. And for younger kids, I can easily see many people freaking out on this type of a lift. While a nice gimmick, I'm just not sure that it makes this ride accessible to younger kids and families like it should. Then, the main drop has two parts. First, the initial drop down. This is made to be steep and an overall solid drop, even though it only stands 55 feet tall. I'd still argue that the backwards drop on Journey to Atlantis is better, but this drop packs a decent enough punch to be on par with any big drops at SeaWorld San Antonio, such as the back row on Texas Stingray or the third drop on the Steel Eel. Normally, I was more worried about the lift hill and then getting really wet to really appreciate just how strong this drop is, but it does its job to be a scary element that packs a decent enough punch, as it is marketed as the steepest log flume drop at 53 degrees. Given that these intimate cars are more restrictive due to the design of this ride versus other log flumes, you might not be able to feel the drop as much. So I'm not sure how much the degrees really matters, but it is nice for what it is. Then you go over a post-drop bunny hill. These elements are particularly excluded as being a coaster element after a drop when it comes to a log flume, so no, this section definitely does not make this a coaster as the park claims. Furthermore, this bunny hill is severely trimmed, so that you are sapped of most of your speed and get no airtime over it whatsoever. With the initial burst of speed you got from the drop, there seems to be potential here that this hill could, under the right conditions, deliver nicely. But as it is currently running, it is just an extended brake run. The final splashdown will likely get the outward-facing half of you wet. If you'd managed to stay semi-dry so far. The splash seems to hit further back in the train, so if you're more towards the front, you could be spared here, though it is rather random how the splash hits. After this drop, you'll spend a little bit more time slowly floating back to the station. Overall, how good is this log flume coaster? First off, Catapult Falls is just a log flume, not a coaster, as it doesn't have any unique coaster elements that would help to reclassify it. Though, with its gimmicks, it is close to being a coaster. That said, it does its job of getting people wet, having exciting parts, lots of slow meandering like a log flume should, and a solid finale that offers decent thrills. I have a very special place in my heart for Bugs Bunny's Whitewater Rapids at Fiesta, Texas, but when it comes to thrills, Catapult Falls beats it easily as one of the better log flumes that I've been on. However, I'm not entirely sure that what SeaWorld San Antonio needed was a high-thrill log flume, as simply having a nice family ride that is accessible to everyone, like Wavebreaker the Rescue Coaster, is really what this park needs more of. When comparing this to coasters, which is really tough given the meandering and slow bits, I'd put this right below Journey to Atlantis, which I do really like and appreciate as a coaster, even though it's simplistic. To me, the backwards drop there just plays a bit better than the launched hill on this log flume, and I'd rather have a ride that lightly mists me than something that really soaks me, like Catapult Falls. At least, when it comes to a thrill ride. Is Catapult Falls the ride that SeaWorld San Antonio needed? Do you consider it a roller coaster? Let me know. And, as always, Cup Kun Krap. Yeah, that wasn't for some reason.